Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday night, August 12th, 2021. Time for another Get Off My Lawn podcast where we kind of just hang out, talk about, talk about whatever I want to because it's my show. That's why. Try to talk about things that make people think and every now and then maybe present a viewpoint that'll make you go, So we will give it just a second here for the announcements to go out for everybody on the YouTube and on the Facebook sides. So if you're out there watching already, make sure you are throwing those comments out there in the live chat. And I will try to remember to say that more often as we go along, as people join us. So looks like we've got one person out there watching so far. There'll be more come along here, I hope, pretty soon. Make sure you click that like button, and please feel free to share the link to this everywhere, really everywhere. In fact, you can share the link. Even the YouTube link can be shared across Facebook or Insta, whatever. So make sure you're doing that. If you have not yet subscribed on YouTube and liked the page on Facebook, you need to go do that as well. Please do so. Let's drive those numbers up. And like I said, just help me spread the word that we're doing this every week. So here we go. A couple things that, of course, we need to take care of before we bring in some guests here tonight and kind of dig into tonight's topic. Real quick, we do have some cool gear. If you want some cool hats, hoodies, excuse me, stickers. We've even got coffee mugs. Some of them say Sandhills Shooter. Those are still going. Even though we've changed over to Sandhills Media now, you can still get the gear that says Sandhills Shooter until we decide that we're not going to offer that anymore, which pretty much means until we get the other stuff up and running. But the really cool part is on that store, blackswantactical.com, you can go find the Team Sandhills collection. You can support my beautiful bride. Sandhills Sweetheart has some cool stuff with some green cancer ribbons. So I like the coffee mug. It's a nice big mug. But you can get hats. You can get all kinds of there's t-shirts for men and women. There's hoodies. There's all kinds of fun stuff. You need to go check it out. Two designs. One of them says "Not Today, Cancer." One of them says "Her fight is my fight." So feel free to get either one or both as you go there. You can get 10% off your order by using the discount code Sandhills. So make sure you're doing that. Also, you can find us. I know we're live right now on YouTube and Facebook, and I love the fact that we can interact and you can actually comment and we can talk to each other. It's so much better than a TV show or a radio program where you can yell all you want at the TV, but Tucker can't hear you when you're watching Tucker Carlson. You can yell all you want at your computer and I can't hear you either. But if you type in the live chat, then those comments do show up and we get to see those. So it's interactive, it's real time, it's live. There's only about a 10-20 second delay from when you type it to when I get to, or excuse me, from, I don't know how that works. From when I say it to when it actually goes out, something like that. There's a little bit of a slight delay going through the interwebs, but it's, for the most part, it's pretty much instantaneous. But you can find us after the fact. I try to get these uploaded by the following Monday, and you can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Anchor, Google, Apple. In fact, if you're not on Apple Podcasts, but you can get there on an Apple device, go to Apple Podcasts, search the Get Off My Lawn podcast, find us, not the one from that famous guy, find us and give us those 5-star reviews. I've heard that you can do that even if you don't subscribe. So that would be awesome. But one of the best places to find us on audio is the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can find this show and a whole lot of actually good ones along with us. You can go to sdrn.us and check out the Get Off My Lawn podcast. There's Eye on the Target Radio, the Polite Society podcast, Armed Lutheran Radio, all kinds of cool stuff over there. So go check that out, and you can get the audio feeds from a whole bunch of really cool people, including tonight's sponsor. We'll get there here in just a second, but make sure you go check out Self-Defense Radio Network. We're very proud to have been invited to be part of that network. And then real quick, before we get rolling here, we're going to just mention that we're able to go live on multiple platforms, YouTube and Facebook, because we've got some really cool sponsors that helped us out. So this week's episode is sponsored by Riding Shotgun with Charlie, and you can see his logo up in the top right corner of the screen there all night long. And you can see his website down there at the bottom of the screen. If you're watching, you get to see it. If you're on audio, you don't get to see it. So you have to pay attention a little bit better when I give these websites. But Riding Shotgun with Charlie is a great interview show that brings you right into the heart of intimate conversations where you can be a fly on the rearview mirror. The show's host, Charlie Cook, which you have seen him in here many, many times, and hopefully many more to come. The show's host, Charlie Cook, talks freedom, firearms, and anything related with guests from all over the country, filmed within the safe confines of Charlie's stagecoach, which is his car. Passengers open up about their lives and what is on their mind. Riding Shotgun with Charlie is available on YouTube, Gunstreamer, and the OpsLens app, and most popular podcast platforms, including the Self-Defense Radio Network. Visit Charlie on the web at ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com, and be sure to check out his cool swag page with all new Riding Shotgun with Charlie t-shirts, stickers, patches, and more. And make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube. He's now dropping a new video every week, I believe, on Tuesday mornings. And I don't know what number it's going to be, but I tell you what, he's had some really cool people just recently. The last two that I can think of. This week's episode was I'm going to draw a blank. Gabby Franco, Olympic shooter, and Venezuelan American. You've seen her on two different seasons of Top Shot competition. Gabby's really cool. She was the latest one. I think last week or the week before was Neil Widener from Active Self-Protection, who is not that far from here, lives up in South Dakota, and he came from close to where I came from. So we're not going to say that he's West River, but he's West River. So go check out Riding Shotgun with Charlie. All right. Let's pull that back off the screen, and we're going to go through. We've got some comments already coming through, so that's good. Again, if you're watching right now, please drop those comments, and you can just say hi if you want. If you're new, we'd like to know where you're coming from or where you're watching from. And then also, I tell you what, even if you're not new, I don't keep everybody straight where everybody is. So feel free to just shout out where you are, where you're from. If you're not right now, if you're not at where you're from, I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but if you're not where you're normally, then you can tell us that too if you want to. So get those comments coming out there. I can see who's out there right now. Kingpin's in the house. Travis is out there, and we're about to see him on screen. Pat, same thing. Keith Gregory's out there. Guns and Barbecue, making me hungry. The Wanky Marshmallow. Who else is out there real quick? Mike. Tacos and French fries. Again with the food. You guys are killing me. I did just eat, but I'm still hungry because I had to kind of rush and I didn't eat much. Gun loving Grandpa. What's up, Stan? Guy that comments, and I know there'll be a few more coming through on the Facebook side. I'm not seeing any Facebook posts yet or comments yet. So if you're watching out there on Facebook, and it looks like 3 of you should be dropping those comments so that we can see everybody. The Men of Tupperware. I don't think I've seen that name before. That's awesome. Jeff Moeller's out there. All right. I'm not going to keep shouting out names. It'll take me most of the night to do it. And we'll not get into our discussion. So tonight we've got a couple usual suspects. We've got a couple new faces. One new face, brand new face that's never been with us before. And then we have another guest who will be joining us. I told her it was okay to be fashionably late to our party tonight because she had a work engagement that she said it was going to run a little long probably. So, all right. Oh, Guns and Barbecue's worried that if he tells me where he lives, I'm going to come after him because I am not part of the AFT. Okay, I'm not part of any task farce, and so there you have it. All right, and I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location that may or may not be anywhere in the state where I'm from, except for it's my house, but I'm not going to tell you what room. So, all right, real quick, we're going to bring a few people on the screen, and just dig into some cool stuff here tonight. So normally I save special guests for last, but then they always hang out on the bottom side of the screen when we do the split screen view. So we're going to change things up a little bit. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start bringing people in. We're going to bring our special guest in first. There's a Facebook post out there. I see you, Bryce. So that way we can have our special guest up there towards the top. And for some reason, as host, I'm always in the top left corner. But here we go. So first and foremost, I tell you what, when we get into this discussion, you're going to understand why it was important to me to bring this guy in. He's a friend of mine. We've been friends for probably better than 10 years now. He is a super cool dude. And I'm not just saying that because he can whoop my butt, but he can. He's a gun guy. He actually posts up some cool videos from his range that he's built out at his place. And I've not yet been able to go out there and shoot at his steel targets, but one day I'm going to get there. But he's also a karate instructor, and I wanted to get a unique perspective as a karate instructor as we go along tonight. So I was trying to figure out the best way to introduce him, and here's what I came up with. I did a little research, and as a karate instructor, he's been a student of the discipline for quite some time. He actually once squared off and sparred with Chuck Norris himself. The loser of that bout couldn't show his face for about 40 years and had to cover it up with a beard. So here we go. We've got Tom in the house. Tom T joining us.
Yeah, I got to come up with a fancy handle like the rest of them
there. you could, I mean, just Sensei would be kind of cool too. Sensei Tom.
You know, Sensei is kind of reserved for students most of the time, because otherwise most people just look at you like, really? So, nice. I was actually trying to count in my head. I think 28 years now I've been training.
Wow,
in martial arts. Yeah, it's a day or two.
That's cool. Well, I'm very glad to have you here tonight, and can't wait to get your perspective. The best part about bringing some of my friends in sometimes to do this is that you're not normally a guy that's hanging out, running your mouth on the interwebs. And excuse me with the frog in my throat tonight, everybody. The perspective that I wanted was not only as a karate instructor, but also just as a normal dude, just an average, everyday Nebraskan. And that's what you're going to bring to the table tonight. So I can't wait to get into this stuff. And then we've got a few of our usual suspects joining us tonight. So you know what? We're going to call him out because he wasn't even in the green room until after we went live. So we're going to blast him up here first. So we've kind of got an all Nebraska panel tonight, unless anybody else jumps in that I'm not aware of. So first up, we've got coming to us, one of two dudes coming to us tonight from the capital city of Lincoln. We've got Defense Dad in the house.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I had to pick the kiddo up after work from Grandma and Grandpa's, and we got home.
Oh, so that was kind of a legitimate reason, and I really shouldn't put you on blast, but too late.
That's all right.
All right. Glad to have you along. Next up, the other guy coming to us from the capital city, everybody's favorite tactical teacher. We've got Travis P11.
Hey, man, what's going on? How you guys doing?
Doing great. Good. Glad to have you.
Doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate the invite, man. Yeah.
Heck yeah. From a bunker in an undisclosed location. I cannot get out of him, and he knows I'm not AFT, and I still can't get out of him where this bunker is, because I can't even tell you which state this thing sits underneath. Maybe it's under both. I don't know. But we've got Pat joining us again from the bunker.
Evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing great. Glad to have you along. All right. So if you're just joining us, especially if you're joining us over there on the Facebook side, you need to get that chat, that comment section lively. The YouTubers are doing a pretty good job. There's some conversations already going out there. Some people were trying to guess who it was that I was describing with my martial arts master. They were
master.
They wondered if it was Master Ken. They wondered if it was Ryu.
Haruken.
So there's some good guesses out there, but nobody was going to guess Tom because, like I said, he's not famous. Well, he wasn't. We're going to do our best. Everybody just share this link everywhere, and let's make his face famous out there. So,
wow.
All
That's
right.
what I need. That's what I need.
Right. Yeah. Did I mention he's also a business owner in the town where one of the towns I used to live, and so we're not going to get into all that. We'll keep things kind of compartmentalized tonight. But yeah, this is a face that is known in certain parts of Nebraska, I should say. So, all right. Here's what I want to talk about tonight. I don't remember how long ago it's been. It's a week or two ago now. I saw a post come through that probably something that somebody had shared off Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter, so I see those when people share them on Facebook. Somebody was talking about how as a gun owner, that if you're carrying a gun, it's because you must want to go out and try and shoot bad guys and fight crime. And we've seen other things, even from Joe Biden. We've heard, that you can only hunt ducks with 3 rounds in your magazine, but you can hunt children with a 100-round drum. Now, as firearm owners, if you're a firearm owner and you hear such a thing, if that does not instantly set your blood boiling, I don't know what would. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I do not like being accused of being something that I'm not, especially if that something is horrible. And I don't know what's more horrible than a murderer or a hunter of humans, especially the young ones, the children. And so I take offense when I hear that kind of stuff, and I want to have just a discussion. We do have a firearms instructor who's going to be joining us. Hopefully she's going to make it, but she did confirm yesterday when I told her it was cool to be late. So she'll be in here later. But for now, the first thought that I had in my head was nobody who carries a gun, especially a responsible, legally armed, concealed carrying citizen, you don't do that because you're looking for a fight. You're doing that because you're looking to get out of one or end a fight as quickly as possible. That made me think, because let me give you a little bit of a window into my brain and how my brain works, because one thought just instantly leads to more. So sometimes I have to backtrack through the spider web of thoughts and figure out how I even got from point A to point D. So that thought led to, in martial arts, I know that you are not taught to go looking for a fight. Cobra Kai is not real. For those of you that watch that on TV, John Kreese is not a real instructor, and I don't know of any reputable dojo anywhere that would teach the things that he teaches his students. And so that made me think of Tom. And then I thought, I need to see if Tom will come on. And you know what? He's gracious enough to give me some of his time. And so the first thing that I just want you to kind of give us a little bit of, how do I say this? Give us a little bit of credibility. You said you've been instructing for a number of years, but kind of, if you were to introduce yourself as an instructor, what is it that you would use to introduce yourself first and foremost? And then I want you to kind of lead us off, Tom, with, what it is that you actually teach your students.
Well, that's an interesting thing to say. Boy, so a lifelong goal of my wife and mine was to study martial art, and it was odd because we didn't until we moved back to a small town in Ainsworth, and then we're very fortunate that somebody else moved to the town that taught the martial art that we currently do. And then we got their instructor, who's from New York. Actually, it took 3 years for us to be accepted as his students. And then we've both been training now, like I say, for about 28 years now. We're both 3rd degree black belts in Shoryuken Kaiseido, and we're both black belt, first degree black belts with weapons, as in kabuto weapons, as in bow staff, nunchuck, tonfa, kama, things like that. The weapons, Okinawan weapons. So our style is an Okinawan goju-ryu base style, hard soft style. The first thing I would say is that the ultimate goal of any martial art is to avoid conflict, period. Do you learn how to defend yourself? Absolutely. But you're supposed to learn how to avoid a conflict. And what I hope to teach almost anyone is that how they carry themselves, everything about their demeanor and their being. You can make yourself a non-target very easily by not being a target, carrying yourself in the way that you have a little bit of confidence and awareness, situational awareness of what's going on around the world in you. So and if a student comes to me and says, I say, first thing we usually ask, what do you want to learn? Do you want to get more flexible? Do you want to get more fit? Do you want, what are you looking to do here? And if they say, I want to learn to fight, I say, no, we can't help you. That's not what we're doing here. You want to learn to defend yourself? Great. If you want to, it's all good, but I don't teach people how to go fight. That is not what we do.
And I can't imagine there would be any instructor from any martial art anywhere else that would say anything besides what you just said.
Yeah, none that I'm familiar with. So.
Right. So, I mean, that is first and foremost, when it comes to firearms, I understand that they are destructive devices, right? They're potentially lethal. That's the whole point. And when it comes to being a responsibly armed citizen, that doesn't necessarily just mean firearms, but that's what we talk about typically when we get together here. And so, just real quick, Tom, while we've kind of given you the floor here, branching away from martial arts, you are also, as I said before, you are a gun guy, and you have a lot of fun pulling the trigger at your own personal range, and I'm sure at others as well. So just kind of give us kind of a brief history there as far as, when did you get into firearms? What's been kind of your background there? Like most Nebraska boys, was it just you've never not had a firearm around, or?
I can't remember the time, but I think my parents gave me my first firearm when I was 8 or 10, and I spent summers at my grandmother's farm shooting everything, right. The way you do at the 22. And then I moved to the city, and then I took over jobs managing some businesses, and another friend, he just didn't like the fact that I wasn't carrying. So this was back before concealed carry. So he got me my first pistol and talked me into that. And we've picked that out and we got it. And then I moved back to northern Nebraska and started shooting a little more, started getting into long range shooting guns and long guns and such. And then got out of long guns and went hardcore into pistols and tactical stuff for a while. And that's my driveway. My goal in life is to have a brass driveway from all the empties. And I'm working my way there. And then I just keep adding steel, and I just keep meeting awesome people from around the country that help me get a little better and share their experience with me. And then I like to share my experience with them. And it has, my range has helped a few people become better shooters and get them a good start, because steel is the most fun thing there is. That instant feedback is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And now I'm kind of going back all full circle, and I'm going back to long range things. And I've just purchased a serious long range rifle, and have got a couple of hits at 1,500 yards now. So I'm getting out there a little bit. So it's getting good fun. So, but I've carried for, I don't even know how long I've carried now. And I've never once thought, man, I can't wait to go hunt people.
Right.
I don't know that person. I don't know any gun owner that thinks that way. So I don't know where they get that thought from.
No. Sometimes I wonder, and I know on the pro gun side of the great debate, right? I know that a lot of people tend to be kind of, I don't want to say closed-minded, but I don't know a better term than closed-minded. You know, there are a lot of folks out there that whenever we start to have any discussion, they actually, and they're on our side of the debate, but they really shut communication down with the stuff like, you know, shall not be infringed and cold dead hands and all that, come and take it, right? But ultimately, I don't think that does us a lick of good. I don't think those people are really that helpful in the great debate. I try to figure out where the other person is coming from. Why are they saying what they're saying? Is it because they're parroting what was on the news or what somebody, you know, some mom in a red shirt had said somewhere at a rally? Are they saying this because they lost a loved one to a firearm, whether it was self-inflicted or a homicide? You know, where are they coming from with this? Is it because they've watched too much TV? And they think that John Wick and Johnny Lawrence are real people. You know, there's a lot of stuff that can influence those folks. You know, is it because they've only talked to those come and take it guys and they think that we're all nuts, you know, and that we're all unreasonable? So I try to kind of come at any discussion. When I'm thinking correctly, I try to figure out where they're coming from and figure out why they're saying what they're saying. Does that mean that I agree with them? No. By me being kind, am I admitting defeat or showing weakness? I believe I'm not. Which is another reason why I wanted to get your perspective tonight. And again, going back to the martial arts aspect, when it comes to, how do I want to say this? When it comes to avoiding a fight, when it comes to, and I don't know anything about martial arts. You and I have discussed this before. Besides what I've seen on movies like, you know, The Karate Kid, and I know that's pretty real.
Actually, oddly enough, The Karate Kid is based on Goju-ryu or Shuriken originally. Wax on, wax off. Those are actually legitimate. They get a little carried away with the other stuff, but you know, in the second Karate Kid, not at all. But the first one, Master Miyagi, is actually based on one of the guys that developed our style. So
that's cool.
Oddly enough, yeah,
that's very cool. So do you ever get students that I'm sure you do, that there's a little bit of machismo there? They want to be tough, even if they're not, even if their head's in the right place and they're not intending to go look for a fight. They're a little headstrong, they're a little macho, and they don't want to appear weak. How do you deal with such a thing in the martial arts world?
Well, one of the basic tenets in our style is no muscular strength. Strength is required. Everything is technique driven. So small people handle big people, versus versa. And the more relaxed a person is, generally, the more painful and more that they hurt you. And usually I just go ahead and demonstrate that being macho just doesn't really work. and a very kind way explain that they need to take a deep breath and relax. And anytime I see somebody with their shoulders up like this, that is not a threat to me. It's the guy that's relaxed like this, that's shoulders back and down. Those are the guys I actually look out for, because the relaxed man is the man that can move and do things. It's the tensed uptight guy. And so they generally figure out pretty quickly that macho has nothing to do with it, especially when my wife starts hitting them and are sparring with them a little bit, and they can see that it is, you know, it is definitely not what they think it's going to be. And the harder they try and be, the more it hurts. So
sure. And let me tell you, for those of you that don't know Tom, his wife is a very sweet lady, but she is not large or imposing in any way, shape, or form. Now, I've never squared off on her on a mat against her, but and I can only imagine what she could do to somebody that thought that he was tough. But yeah, she would be the perfect example of technique over brawn.
Have to have technique. Yeah. So
real quick before we go too much farther, Pat, Travis, or Defense Dad, if any of you have anything you want to throw in as far as the conversation goes, or questions for Tom, I'll go ahead and open this up to you guys too.
You know, in all the firearms classes that I've taken and the training I've done, I don't think I've ever taken one where they've encouraged you to go out and hunt and kill people. So
Right?
Why people think that we have this fantasy to want to go out and hurt somebody, it just totally blows my mind. And like you said, John, I think it's because they've talked to too many come and get it's or something like that. I don't know. It's just, I guess that's what we're calling those people that want to go out and cause problems. But yeah, it's just odd. I mean, it's funny how we got those parallels between martial arts and firearms training, where both are training you to defend yourself in a scenario, to defend your life, but not encourage you to go out and harm other people. In fact, to exercise restraint. I would say that I'm more conscious of me being a gun owner after taking my classes and after taking my training than I was before, you know?
Well, I'm going to pipe in. I was, while you were talking about it, I was thinking about it, and not to defend them, but I think a lot of those people, they speak from a place of ignorance. All they do is watch the news, see how we're portrayed, that sort of thing. And in their minds, they think, yeah, if we get rid of the guns, especially if we get rid of guns in households that have children, that we're going to save lives, when in all reality, like the whole reason I bought a gun and started my channel in the first place is to protect my child because of stuff that was going on here in my town. So if you talk to, I have a lot of times you're not going to change their mind, but I have spoken to a couple that thought certain things with firearms were just horrible. And then if you rationally tell them like why people do certain things, and then sometimes they start to understand. But you're not going to change everybody's mind. But like I said, I think a lot of people, they speak from a place of ignorance. They haven't taken their time to fact check, and they think just guns are horrible just because they're guns.
Mm-hmm.
I find
agree with that.
I find it interesting that the same people that don't want or won't have a gun or keep a gun in their house allow their children to play all of the games, the video games that absolutely depict every firearm that they would never want any of us to own. And, and then you have these same people that kids don't have any accurate understanding of what happens when you shoot something. And so the kids I know, all my friends that bring their kids up, I mean, they're shooting firearms from an early age, and they're seeing what actually happens when you shoot an animal. It dies, it bleeds, it's ugly. And, so there's no reality. And so I think that's a lot of the problem we face too, is they just don't understand the reality of the situation.
And I have a couple family members, one of whom is ex-military, but they will, if they have one has a firearm in the house, one doesn't. The one who does have a firearm refuses to keep ammunition for it. They truly believe that their dogs are and calling the police is going to avoid a threat for them. And they think because they have children, even though they own a gun, it's dangerous for them to have even ammunition for that shotgun in the house. And I don't get it.
I don't. That's mystifying to me. With that, anybody thinks that? Yeah. Again, I think that if the children know what they actually do, takes care of that problem right away. All my friends, I unlocked the gun cabinets, guns in them, ammo right there, and none of the kids ever touch them because they know.
Well, and people have said to me that it's horrible that I started my daughter shooting, and how dare you give a child a gun? And one thing, if you're going to have firearms in the house with a kid, you need to teach them about them. And I know part of the things about training tonight, but you also need to train your kids because, if they don't know, if you, we've talked about it before, if you keep the mystery there and they're not, and they're curious about it, that's when you have accidents. If you teach them and they know how to do responsibility, you're going to avoid that stuff.
What I found kind of funny is I know quite a few families that are not into firearms, that are a bit liberal, yet their children, and no offense, Tom, but their children are in martial arts. It just kind of blows my mind where these kids are learning a skill of restraint and discipline, but could potentially be used to save their own lives, but harm somebody else in the process. I mean, I'm just saying it's kind of ironic that, oh, my kid's in Taekwondo, but we don't have any guns. It's like, oh, okay, all right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Little irony there.
Well, the irony of it for me too is that okay, so if somebody comes, I asked them if they why they want to do a martial art, and they say they want to learn to fight. I don't want them as a student, or we have to have a discussion about it. Yet, if I talk to somebody, or they come to me and they say, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting my concealed carry, and I think I want to carry, and I want to get a gun," the first question I ask them is, "Well, do you think you can honestly draw a weapon and shoot somebody? Could you pull the trigger?" And if they say, well, I don't know, I don't think so, I'm like, then you really don't need a gun because there's a mental hurdle that you're going to have to get to at some point in time, or you're probably more danger to yourself and others than you would be. So it is kind of a strange thing too, both ways there. It's odd to come to the reality that if you carry a gun for a reason, will you actually use it if that occurs, the worst case scenario occurs and you have to actually use it, can you use it? Because if not, why do you have it? And so I guess I would rather see more people take a martial art and not be a victim in the first place. If they're not going to train, they're not going to get comfortable with the firearm and or get that mental hurdle crossed. And it's not that I would ever, I don't ever want to have to shoot anybody. I don't ever want to have to draw my sidearm. That's not my goal, but you've got to also come to the reality of this is why I'm carrying it, and can I actually use it?
Yeah, very, very true. Pat, I've seen you come off mute a couple times. Looks like you have something you want to add there or ask.
Yeah, I just wanted to springboard off of Travis just a little bit there. And like all of us probably on the panel were taught at a very young age never to point a weapon or anything like that at a person, period, when we were little kids, granted, 8, 10 years old, whether it was a pellet gun, 22, shotgun, didn't matter. And then as we got older, more layers kept coming in and coming in. Well, if you have to use this gun in self-defense, make sure that it's in self-defense and not in anger. So there's a lot of levels as you grow up and get into bigger calibers and more types of guns and stuff like that. So because, I started off with a pellet gun when I was 7, graduated to a Mag 22 when I was 9 or 10 years old. And, finally about 13, 14, about the time I had my learner's permit, it's like, well, if we're not home and somebody busts into the house and they're threatening you and there's a whole herd of them and there's only one of you, well, it's okay to defend your life when we're not around. So it's, there's a lot of layers as you grow up. So, and especially what Travis was pointing out earlier, when I was taking my CCW class, our actual sheriff here teaches a class, and he said one of the things that will always stick with me is you better make sure that you know exactly what you're shooting at, what the threat is, and once that bullet leaves the gun, you can't recall it. It's not like a missile where you can type in a code and blow it up before it gets to its target. Once it's gone and out of the barrel, it's gone. So you just better be damn sure.
That's very good advice. And real quick, we've got our last guest is waiting over in the green room. But before we bring her in, just one sentiment too. And Pat, you're right. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of nuance with this discussion. It's not an easy discussion. It's not just an open and shut. Why do you want to hunt kids? Well, I don't. Okay. End of conversation, right? It's not like that. We could probably go the rest of the night and into the wee hours of the morning and not exhaust this topic completely. But ultimately, the thing that concealed carriers, responsibly armed citizens who concealed carry, and responsible martial arts practitioners have in common is the fact that the world is not a good place all the time. The world is not always nice. There are bad people who do bad things. Sometimes those bad things could happen to you. If those bad people try to do bad things to you, the goal is to stop them. from doing those bad things or prevent them from doing those bad things. If that means that we get into a fight, we want the tools necessary to end that fight and stop that threat as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. Does that mean that sometimes people lose their lives? Unfortunately, it does. And Tom's right. You do have to have that mindset if you're going to carry a firearm. It could be deadly. And sometimes stopping the threat means that the threat loses their life. That is a concept you have to be able to wrap your head around. If you can't wrap your head around that, I agree with Tom. You shouldn't be carrying concealed. You shouldn't be walking around in public with that firearm, because there's not really another reason than to protect oneself, unless you are a sworn-in law officer. But it's the same thing with unarmed combat, with martial arts, even, you know, with or without martial arts weapons. I mean, just unarmed combat. You still want to stop the fight. You want to stop that threat as quickly as possible, which is why there are techniques, right? It's not just drunken boxing, right? It's not just throwing roundhouse punches all day long. I mean, it's literally efficiency of movement. It's leverage. It's a whole lot of physics, and using, depending on the discipline, it's using, sometimes even using your enemy's strength against themselves, right? Like that's what judo is all about.
Sure.
And so that's what martial arts is all about. It's about learning how to stay out of a fight, but if you don't have another choice, then you darn well better win. Mm-hmm. And when there are referees and you're on a mat, then the goal isn't to live, it's to just win a match. But in a dark alley, the goal is to walk away. And sometimes that means the other person doesn't get to walk away, whether they're lying bloody in a heap or they lost their life. But that's a chance that people take when they become the aggressor, right? And so the world is messy. Sometimes we don't have a choice. Sometimes we've got to deal with it in a messy way. And so being prepared is what we're all about. Now, we've talked to a karate instructor who is also a gun guy and a concealed carrier. Now we're going to bring in our last guest here, who, like I said, we said she could be fashionably late. I've seen her shoot, and I just don't want her mad at me, so I'm never gonna make her mad. No, I'm kidding. She would never shoot me unless I attacked her. But she's joining us tonight. You know her face. You've heard her voice on here before. We've got Trish with us. Trish happens to be the NFOA president, so you've seen Trish and I over on the NFOA page doing some videos too. But she's not here tonight in an NFOA capacity. She's here as a firearms instructor. She's here as a mama bear, and my friend, like everybody else is in here too. And so I don't know how much you heard before you were able to join us tonight, Trish.
Probably like the last 10 minutes.
Okay, so pretty much what we're talking about, there are people out there who are under the very false impression that people carry a firearm because they want to hunt people down, whether it's the murderers who go into a school setting and hunt down kids, or just Batman, or not Batman. He doesn't use a lot of guns. The Punisher uses a gun. Mm-hmm. That mindset that, you know, if you want a gun and you want to carry it in public, it must be because you want to hunt down criminals. You want to stop bad guys, right? And you want to do the things that the police can't do or won't do, or all the crap that I don't know what people always think. Yep. But those are the things that we see on TV and in the movies. Mm-hmm. And so the truth is that it's the opposite of that. Nobody who is a responsibly armed concealed carrying citizen wants to get into a fight, wants to ever draw that firearm and have to use it to stop a threat. So when it comes to that concept, what do you tell people when they bring up, you know, wanting to be Batman or something like that?
Sure, yeah. You know, I understand the stereotypes, every group, every activity, however you want to categorize human beings, we have stereotypes. Some are positive and some are negative. And what I dislike about stereotypes is generally the negative ones come from a tiny, tiny micro population that like gets all the attention, right? No one puts in the news the thousands of times responsible firearm owners defended themselves, successfully with or without shots fired. We only hear about the guy who didn't know how to holster his firearm successfully and, shot himself in the leg or something like that. Or, the violent criminal actors, which we are all aware of. I've been told I'm paranoid. I've been told there's blood on my hands to be a firearm owner. And I thought, wow, I am just incredibly responsible for a whole lot of stuff I wasn't aware of. So for my journey became really important to me when I was widowed. Found myself at 37 years old with a 7 and 11-year-old child, without what my support system was, which was my husband. And about a couple weeks after he passed, basically I had some pots and pans stacked up in the kitchen in the middle of the night. They fell. Huge crashing noise, right? So here I am, young mother. I wake up in the middle of the night and I reach over to his side of the bed, which I would have normally done. And, he's not there. It's not, hey, honey, go check what that noise is. Go protect us. I realized it was just me, So I pick up this sort of like wiffle bat that my son had, and I go storming through my house with this wiffle bat and, discover nothing's, wrong. But I sit back at the kitchen table and I'm looking at this wiffle bat and like, what would I have done with this wiffle bat? Nothing. That wiffle bat would likely have just been taken away from me and used, for whatever bad purpose they wanted to use that bat. And so I thought about it. I did a whole lot of research, and I got a security system in my house, and I did some strengthening of my door frames and the locks in my doors, and I really started thinking about, a firearm, and I put a lot of thought to it. I wasn't a gun owner. I wasn't anti-gun. I wasn't pro-gun. Guns weren't a part of my life. I'd served in the military, and if anyone knows Air Force training, we didn't get a whole lot, and we didn't get to shoot a lot, but it was sometimes cool to carry that sidearm while you were deployed. But long story short, I had someone take me under their wing. They showed me some stuff, and I got proficient, and I started learning. So the biggest thing I want to say about this attitude that exists is it's really misinformation, a lack of education, and ignorance that creates this idea that individuals who pursue the equipment, the knowledge, the skills, and then pursue the practice to simply just be prepared for what would likely be the worst case scenario in your entire life that you could ever imagine, and that you vehemently hope never happens. Like, we hope it never happens. Mm-hmm. My number one goal. I teach concealed carry. I teach basics all the way to advanced defensive shooting now, so I've come a long way. And every class that you come to, my students know my goal is that you never have to use this firearm, which is weird for a firearms instructor. And that's why in my class and in so many thousands of other classes that are happening across our state, what are we emphasizing? We're emphasizing situational awareness. We're emphasizing de-escalation. We're emphasizing what maturity looks like. Oh, they stole your parking spot? Great. They cut you off on the highway? Smile and wave, guys. Smile and wave. That the gun owner really becomes far more cool, calm, and collected than the standard community, because we know, because we've learned and we have the knowledge that the smallest thing can escalate to something you don't want to deal with. And so we prefer to be preventative rather than aggressive. It's really the opposite is true.
You said that very well. I would echo that sentiment. Since I've become and yes, I know that I hate the fact that I have to have a license to do this, but that's a discussion for another day. But since I've become a licensed concealed carrier, I've never been the type to go looking for a fight. I've never been in a fist fight. My mouth has gotten me out of every bit of trouble it's ever gotten me into so far, knock on wood. But I think about now, I think about things that that I maybe shouldn't say that could have gotten me into trouble in the past, or maybe, you know, would get me into trouble if I said something, the wrong thing to the wrong person, because I don't want to get into a fist fight. I especially don't want to get into anything while I'm carrying. I have no intention, if somebody's coming at me and wants to punch me in the face, I have no intention of drawing my firearm in that situation. I'm going to try and duck, or I'm going to learn whether or not I can take a punch. I guess one of two things is going to happen here, but I'm not going to pull a firearm on them for trying to punch me in the nose. Now, if there were multiple attackers that look like they know what they're doing, and I certainly do not, then that's why I have the what is it, the field level, the equalizer that I carry in my belt. And so that does make for a more level playing field in that situation. But ultimately, I'm a lot more cognizant of what I'm doing, where I am, who I'm interacting with, how I treat them, the courtesy that I extend to other people. I'm a lot more cognizant of that now as a licensed concealed carrier. And that goes back to what I had mentioned earlier when I was talking with Tom, is that, you know, if I am kind to somebody, or I am compassionate or empathetic, that doesn't equate to weakness. That doesn't mean that I'm a pushover. That doesn't mean that I'm a target or a victim. That means that I hopefully am a little more mature than what I used to be. I've often posted on my Facebook page. I've said it a couple times, and I've often said this in conversations. I don't know if I've ever said it on here on the podcast, but if you are not capable of great violence, you cannot be peaceful. You can only be harmless.
Jordan Peterson, the man.
Did he say that?
He said that.
I don't know who said it first. I'll take your word for it.
Oh, you can claim it. I just know that Jordan Peterson said that for a long time.
I don't claim it. I know I didn't come up with it. I just didn't know who did. But so, it is. I think it's true. You can't be peaceful if you cannot be violent.
Nope.
John, and so I think that's another great point for the folks who haven't spent any time really thinking about this. There are probably millions of them who simply in their mind, I couldn't imagine doing that. I couldn't imagine shooting at someone. I couldn't imagine doing a throat strike, right? Or a defensive, nose bone, right? I can't imagine that. And okay, I get it. I understand that. It's hard to conceive. However, if you're a parent, okay, and your child is running into the street, I'm sure that you can imagine running and snapping your child, or even putting yourself in the way of that car. Okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine jumping in front of a bus either.
Right.
But yes, if I had a small human that I was in charge of.
And while you're not doing the violence, if you will, that is a horrifically violent event as far as damage, injury, and horror. Okay. And you wouldn't second guess yourself. You'd be right there. So in the same sense, if you're willing to say that, yes, that's a possibility, it's plausible that I would risk myself to save the life of someone I loved, even if it had, a horrific possible outcome. That's really what we're talking about, is to understand that you're putting yourself in a space where skills and knowledge are required. Absolutely. But you're doing it out of love. Okay. So when I decided to carry concealed, for me, it was more about, oh my God, I am my children's only parent. And if something happened to me as a woman, and there is a biological disadvantage, okay, they're going to be parentless. And so my first motivation was my children. And then over time, as my children grew, and they're still my primary reason, when you think about your own life, and not only the people that you depend on you, but the people who love you, who don't want you to be gone, who don't want you to be hurt or maimed, raped, kidnapped, those kinds of things. When you see these awful stories on Facebook, we had a young girl who was missing for a while. I don't know if you saw it on social media, but she was everywhere out of Omaha, and she's a sister of a really, really good friend. And she was, instant messaging and TikToking and whatever. And they literally felt that she had put herself into a sex trafficking ring and that she was taken. And it's been like 3 days. And I cannot imagine the horror of that parent, right? Wondering, is her child alive? What's happening to her child and what have you? And so not only is this mindset, this self-defense mindset, my mindset, John, of course, you've met my daughter, but she's a 17-year-old young woman who is well prepared to be ready in the event something bad happens. So it's preparatory. It's just planning. She has no intention of using her skills in a way that's negative to any way, but she's prepared and she has the mental mindset. And the other thing that people miss, and all of us could agree, when you have the mental mindset of preparedness, it's almost as if you have a sign above your head in big, bright red letters, not me. So we're the opposite of the Me Too movement. We're the not me movement. My daughter says, you walk so differently than anyone else, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I walk with purpose. I make eye contact. I know where I'm at. I know where I would go. I know how to escape and evade. And I also know how to defend. And it changes you. You make better decisions. You don't put yourself in situations that are dangerous or risky. And so I love it. Honestly, it's been transformative as a human and transformative as a woman. Big changes. And
that you've also passed that to your daughter, along with her sense of accomplishment and empowerment and preparedness. She's also, and I'm assuming that part of this is probably genetic because she's kind of a clone, it looks like. But she is a chip off the old block. I mean, she's not, how do I say this? And I'm saying all of these things in a good way, but she's not meek. She's not soft-spoken in the sense that she's not submissive. She's very, very confident in who she is. She knows who she is. She knows what she thinks. She knows why she thinks the things that she thinks. And she seems to have picked up a lot from her mother as far as being aware of a situation and just portraying herself as, not a victim, not me. Move along, find a better target. Yeah. So, Tom, that's one of the things that you were kind of mentioning earlier when you were talking about some of the things that you teach as well in the dojo, just as far as conflict avoidance. I mean, the best fight is the one that never starts, right? So is that do you kind of teach the same thing with situational awareness and things like that?
Absolutely. And trying to get people to realize that their spidey sense is real. When you're in the wrong situation, and then to stop worrying about offending people or what people will think and trusting that instinct and getting out of the situation. Because we all know when we're somewhere we're not supposed to be, but then we stupidly, no. And that's, and how many times have you been working on something and you're doing, and you go, well, I could get hurt doing that. And then you don't, and you ignore the I could get hurt, and you do it anyway, and you get hurt. We have really interesting abilities to discern the situation we're in, and when you're in a bad situation or a stupid place, and we just need to start acknowledging that and avoiding those, and carry your head up, eyes looking around, making eye contact, making the other people, just so you're not the victim. I feel bad for the other people, but I don't want the people that I know to be victims. And so if it says not me, that's exactly what I want it to say. I want the bad guy to go, not an easy target. There's obviously something, they know something, or and move on. next. So
I think maybe here in weeks to come, that might be a topic we revisit, is just more situational and awareness. And it's not like you have to be literally a Jedi and have a sixth sense, the Force, to sense what all is going on around you, right? Like what was the episode 2 when Anakin's outside Padme's bedroom keeping guard, and he tells Obi-Wan, I'm aware of everything that goes on in that room right now. and clearly he wasn't. But you don't have to be like that. You just have to do some minimal things. Will seriously take you out of the running as the best candidate for victimhood in any given situation, along with, again, thinking ahead. You're pulling up to Walmart, and it's an hour from now it's going to be dark. Well, it's not dark yet, but who can go into Walmart and come out in less than an hour? I mean, it's rare. So park by a parking lot light.
John, I haven't been in a Walmart in over 23 years. So
okay, well, for people like
Target
Tom,
isn't any
Walmart
better,
has
bro.
a time warp. Walmart has a time warp. You can go in there at 3 p.m, and you can be in there for 45 minutes. And when you come out, it's November. And so
Shields, put me in Shields. It could be days. I mean, I don't know when I come out. So, yeah.
Same thing. But really, I mean, any shopping center, any place that you would go to, especially if it's getting close to dark. I mean, yeah, simple stuff. We'll get into some of that in more depth, I think, here in weeks to come. But I tell you what, I've got a lot of great ideas for shows, and I'm trying to get them kind of planned out here. And I've got several weeks kind of already planned out, so we'll get there when we get there. Luckily, that's kind of an evergreen topic, so we can revisit that anytime. Okay, so we've heard from a couple different instructors from kind of, I don't want to say polar opposites, because firearm instruction and martial arts instruction is very similar, and there are a lot of parallels. But we've kind of heard from, the lady that teaches people how to use their firearm to get themselves either end a fight or keep themselves alive. We've heard from the gentleman who trains people to do that without a firearm, that's got to be handier for places like schools and churches in Nebraska, and banks and all the places you can't take your firearm.
They handicap you. Yeah, they take the firearm. Yeah,
so they don't want you to do what Trish says to do. So it'll be good to learn some of what Tom says to do. But so Pat, Travis, Defense Dad, do you guys have anything that you want to either mention or ask at this point?
Well, so I heard some good points from both of both Trish and Tom. When you start carrying a gun as a dad or as a parent in general, it helps to know people to tell you what to look for. But even as a parent without a gun, when you have your kid, you're paranoid about stuff. At least I was. You go to some place, especially I have a daughter. Like, I can't go in the restroom with her, so I always keep an eye on. I'm there outside the hallway. She doesn't get out of my sight. You go to restaurants, and now that I carry a gun, you conscious of where the exits are. I don't sit with my back to the door. I want to see who's coming in, who's getting near us, that sort of thing. And it's not because you're. Well, I mean, I want to say it's not because you're paranoid, but I mean, you might be a little paranoid because you kind of have to be, because let's face it, there's just a lot of evil, weird people in this world anymore. And what Trish was talking about as far as the, like she mentioned about the sex trafficking situation, that's why I got a gun. There was 2 attempted kidnappings of girls within less than a half a mile of my house. And that was the breaking point for me. Okay, it's time. I mean, people have heard me tell the story, but like, I grew up shooting, but I didn't own one. That was the time to get one, because here in Lincoln and around here, there's a lot of people that are getting taken for the sex trafficking rings, and I wanted to have a way to protect my daughter, protect my household. And I mean, anybody seen me knows I'm not in physical enough shape, which I'm working on, but to really, so the gun becomes an equalizer if I have a situation. Traveling freaks me out. You go, God forbid you have to stop at a rest stop, but that's one of the prime places where people get taken. So yeah, when you start carrying a firearm, it raises your awareness, and you become more cool-headed, like what you were saying, because you have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the guy that walks into any room and any building and immediately does threat assessment. I look at every single person and decide whether or not they bother me.
Well, and I was raised by a single mom, and back then when we got in an uncomfortable situation, she was like, let's just get out of here. Just look down. Don't make eye contact. Don't provoke them. And that's the opposite of what you really should do.
I would smile and look them in the eye and then leave. But that, yeah, I would definitely provoke them, and I definitely would never look down. That is bad.
But these people that think we just want to be John Wick or do all that kind of crap, no, for a lot of people, carrying a firearm calms them down and makes them rethink their temper that they grew up with.
Now wait a minute, I do have to have a problem. I'd like to be John Wick. That guy's cool.
Well, I just watched it last night too, but those people that think we're monsters or want to go, they think that we want to just go do that on a daily basis. Like, no.
I just want his skill set. The man actually can operate a firearm.
I want to be able to do those things. I just don't ever want to need to do those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know that I need the ability to kill 3 men in a bar with a freaking pencil.
That is a skill set.
Pencil. Pat or Travis, do you have anything you want to add? There's a couple questions I'm going to put up on the screen here, or comments here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're kind of preaching to the choir with our audience, but if there's anybody out there listening and you're not somebody who wants a fire gun or a firearm around the house, why you should have your child take martial arts at some point. Or don't you want your child to have a sense of awareness or an ability to defend themselves? I mean, you got to be in denial of life if you sit there and think that nothing is ever going to happen to your kid. And if something was going to happen, wouldn't you want them to have an opportunity to get away? I mean, I guess I just don't understand why somebody wouldn't. I don't know. I just totally doesn't make sense. I'm not a parent, so maybe that's why, but I don't know. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you there. Pat?
Yeah. I heard this somewhere, and I can't remember. I think it was on another podcast somewhere that I was listening to. I was bouncing around in a tractor in a field somewhere. But one of the best arguments I ever heard that I can put to an anti-gunner or somebody that's totally against guns or self-defense or just wanting to call the cops because they'll take care of the problem is if somebody breaks into your house and you have to go hide in the closet and you call 911, especially if you're a parent and you have a couple little kids in that closet with you, as those attackers are breaking into your house and your kid looks up at you and says, "Mommy or Daddy, are the police coming?" "Yes, they are." "Are the bad guys going to come get us?" "Yes, they probably are." "Is there something that you can do?" "No, son or daughter, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
That is one of the most horrible things that I can think of in my brain. Not have some kind of tool or skill or something at your disposal and be able to look at your kid straight in the eye and say, "No, there's nothing Daddy or Mommy can do about it." That scares the living daylights out of me.
And not only that, but we've called the police.
Exactly.
The police are coming. Are the bad guys coming for us? Yes, they're in the house. Who's going to get to us first?
Exactly.
How far do the police have to come? The bad guys are 50 feet away, and they're on the other side of 2 bedroom door locks or whatever it is. I mean, those aren't hard to defeat, even if you can't kick in an interior door, whereas the police have to show up, assess the situation, make entry, and clear every room on their way to you. Mm-hmm. So I want to take that a step further for the people who absolutely are adamant that there should not be a firearm in the house, and if something bad were to happen, they would call the police. Do they also, when they make that frantic call to 911, do they insist that the police don't bring their guns with them when they show up? I mean, send the police, but tell them to leave their guns home because we don't do guns here.
Right.
No, they call the police because they have guns and they will bring them. And if necessary, they will use them. But that's what blows my mind is I don't agree with using guns to defend oneself. What's your plan? To call the police? They'll come deal with it. With what?
And how? With what? Yeah.
A gun. right?
I wonder how many of those people ever bothered to take the 2 to 3 minutes to Google it or call the police department and just ask the question, what is the average response time in my town?
Yeah,
because if they're already in the house or they're breaking down the door and your average response time is 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah. I mean, we say all the time, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away.
Exactly. And that's, the small county that I live in, there's only one cop on duty in the county at night, usually, unless there's something really bad going on, like a fire or a car accident or something like that, where
Right.
another one's called out. It can be up to 20 minutes away from my place. So it's like I've got to have something to defend myself. So that's one
Absolutely.
of the that I really got into the CCW.
It's just emergency preparedness. I mean, we teach our children. Most schools have a basic first aid class or a CPR class that at some point that kids get offered, and because you never know what can happen while you're waiting for an ambulance to come, you might keep mom or dad alive if you know basic CPR, right? You learn how to run a fire extinguisher, hopefully at a young age, just in case there's a grease fire on the stove. You need to know not to throw water on that, right? You need to be prepared for normal household emergencies. In this day and age, I hate to have to say it, but bad people doing bad things is becoming more and more common of a household emergency. And what is your emergency plan for that? Okay. Does anybody, whether it's my usual suspects or Tom or Trish, do any of you have anything that we haven't said that you wanted to get a chance to say tonight? We're going to start wrapping things up here.
Literally final thoughts. Final thoughts. Whatever steps on your journey you're taking, consider it. Okay. So whether self-defense comes in the form of mental preparedness, physical preparedness, or equipped preparedness, please be prepared. There is an incredible spiritual, mental, psychological transformation awaiting you to where you don't walk in fear anymore through the parking lot, in the mall, in the movie theater, in strange places. When you get lost in your car, it's not as terrifying. The opposite is true. When I was told that, geez, you sound so paranoid, I am so calm, cool, and collected and at peace. And so if a firearm isn't for you, I understand. But there's so much more to this community than the tool that we choose to have to defend ourselves.
Nope, I would agree.
Amen. Well said. For me, John. Oh, go on.
Real quick here, I've forgot I was going to throw a couple comments onto the screen here. Guns and Barbecue had said to tell someone they don't need a gun because they can't answer one question a certain way is crap. The mere presence of their firearm could save their life, since most self-defense situations have 0 shots fired. I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, I do agree that there is still a mindset. If you're not willing to use it, I don't think that I would say you shouldn't have one. I just think that you shouldn't carry one. What good's it doing? Why would you go to all the trouble if you don't think that you could use it? And again, we're not talking about anybody that wants to, but if you absolutely just can't even stomach the thought, it's probably not the right answer for you, to be totally honest. Does anybody want to? Of course not. That's what this whole night's about. So there's a fine line there, but the fact that people do produce a firearm and it does stop the threat without ever firing a shot, even if they're not willing to use it, they sure better portray that they are If Mr. Bad Guy sees that firearm and thinks that you're unwilling to use it to stop the threat, which ultimately could take Mr. Bad Guy's life, then what good is it doing you? That's like saying, you better knock that off, or I'm going to tell your dad when he gets home. That's not a threat. That means that I've got until dad gets home to stop doing whatever I'm not supposed to be doing. So it's tantamount to that. It's saying, hey, you better not attack me, or I'm going to make it look like I've got this thing that's really doing me no good. So I would agree with you to a point, Guns and Barbecue, but not all of that. Seemed like there was one other comment that I wanted to put in there. I can't find it now. So yeah. Oh, there it was. The Man of Tupperware says Bloomberg hates Americans being armed, but loves his armed security. Yeah, that's a topic for another night too. But I'll say this much: I wish that the people who would like to ban specific firearms, I wish in their mind that meant for everybody, including security contractors, law enforcement. If they're bad, then they're bad, right? Let's take them away from everybody. That it maybe not law enforcement officers, but if you've got private security, those security contractors should have the same stuff that I have. They shouldn't have access to anything better. So, all right, let's see here. Before we give everybody a chance to sign off, there's one thought that I've kind of been holding back, just because I kind of wanted to close with this. And then we'll do our outros for everybody. But real quick here, and I've said this time and time again on my social media pages. I know I've said it here before. I'm going to say it one more time, but this is kind of to just kind of sum up our entire conversation tonight. When it comes to why I carry a firearm, and it's not because I want to get into a fight. It's not because I want to shoot somebody. I don't carry a firearm because I intend to force my will upon someone else. I carry a firearm because I refuse to allow someone else to force their will upon me or anybody with me. Simple as that.
Amen.
And that's what it comes down to. I'm unwilling to let somebody try and kill me, try and rape me, try and abduct me, or anybody that's in my party or in my immediate presence. And so that being the case, I don't ever want to take a life. I've thought about it. I don't know if I would ever lock up. Nobody knows until they're there. But in my mind, the thought of that threat needing to be stopped would outweigh any thoughts of anything else. I sure hope that would be true. I pray that it's the case. So that being said, we're going to wrap things up. Again, real quick, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you're still catching us live either way. And we're able to go multiple places at the same time because we got some sponsors, because it's not free in order to do it this way. So tonight's episode is sponsored by Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Riding Shotgun with Charlie is a great interview show that brings you right into the heart of intimate conversations where you can be a fly on the rearview mirror. The show's host, Charlie Cook, talks freedom, firearms, and anything related with guests from all over the country. Filmed within the safe confines of Charlie's Stagecoach, passengers open up about their lives and what's on their mind. Riding Shotgun with Charlie is available on YouTube, Gunstreamer, and the OpsLens app, and most popular podcast platforms, but you don't get to see it. And he spends a lot of time editing multiple camera angles, so you owe it to yourself to go watch them any chance you can. Visit Charlie on the web at ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com, and be sure to check out all his cool swag page with all new Riding Shotgun with Charlie t-shirts, stickers, patches, and more. And he's got some really cool offerings out there. He's had some super cool people on his show, super big names like Hickok 45, Alan Gottlieb, right? And again, not to toot my own horn, but if you keep watching and if you subscribe to his channel on YouTube, there may be another familiar face that goes with this podcast that may be showing up here in weeks to come. So can't wait for it to be my turn, my week. I had my turn in the stagecoach. Now it's just my turn to I'm waiting my turn to have him drop the finished product and see what that looks like. So make sure you subscribe to Riding Shotgun with Charlie so you can see that when it comes out. You can find him on Facebook too. I don't know what all social media, but the two that I'm on, YouTube and Facebook, I know he's got those. So real quick here, we're going to let everybody just kind of give any final thoughts, outros, where people can find you if you want to be found. So Tom, I don't know how much of that you want to put out there on the podcast tonight, but we're going to give you a chance to start here. And again, any closing thoughts? And then if people are looking for anything that you have to offer as far as knowledge or instruction, how can they get a hold of you?
Final thoughts would be, I don't think you can be prepared for every situation there is, but I'm determined to be prepared for as many as I can be. And there's always somebody bigger, stronger, and faster. And that firearm is my last defense against bad people doing bad things to people I care about, or myself. And that's why I carry. At Sandhills Dojo, we're in Ainsworth, Nebraska. We're in the middle of the Sandhills, and love to have new students. Love to work with anybody. Sandhills Dojo you can find us on Facebook. That's about the only place you're going to find us, because advertising any more than that really doesn't do much good when you're where we're located. It's just not a normal place out here. So love to talk with anybody that wants to. Also, anybody that wants a first-time shooter that wants to shoot and shoot steel, love to have you out and help you get acclimated.
And I did, on the Facebook side, I did put the link to, or I mentioned the Sandhills Dojo Facebook page, so you can find that if you're looking on Facebook. I will try to grab that link and repost it on the video description on YouTube here down below. It's not there right now, but I'll try to get that link in there. So Tom, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for hanging out, and
thanks for having me, John.
Thanks for your insights and opinions. So we'll move over to Trish and let you give any final thoughts. And then if people want to get in touch with you for instruction or anything else, how can they do that?
Awesome. Really appreciated this topic. I think it was really, really important. So I appreciate coming on and listening to everyone. I want to extend an invitation to individuals who are yet unsure. I would say in some ways my specialty is walking with you in your journey and making you feel comfortable every step of the way. I kind of have that knack of really personalizing the training and education and conversations to you and what you need to be comfortable. Additionally, I do offer instructor training. I'll throw that out there. I'm a training counselor. So if this approach, this kind of mindset and culture is something that you align with and you have skills and knowledge that you can share, I'll tell you, there's a ton of us instructors out across the state of Nebraska, but there's still more than enough students that need to hear from us. And what's wonderful is that it usually begins in our circles, right? So we start offering training and education to people we know, friends and family, and then it grows. And that's how we uncover those who need us. And so like Tom is offering with, just taking folks out, I think that's awesome. All the way to formal training. I think it's great. So if you're curious, want to know more, I found it in Incendio Firearms Training. I'm out in Plattsmouth, but I travel a lot. So just let me know and I'll come out and meet you.
And thank you very much for joining us tonight and lending your opinions and your expertise as well. All right, we're going to go through and let these other yahoos have one last time to talk as well. So we'll just kind of go back around the horn. So to my on my right side of where Trish is, we've got Pat. So any closing thoughts from you, Mr. Pat, and then where can people find you?
I just wanted to say thanks for having me on tonight, John, and thanks for everybody showing up tonight. Great conversation for sure tonight, especially from several different perspectives, from self-defense with the hands to self-defense with a tool. So, and that's at the end of the day, that's what a gun is. It is just another tool in your belt. So you can find me on YouTube at Pat Hirsch, and I have recently started up something. I'll see if it catches on. I don't know how much I'll do, especially with harvest coming up here in a little while, but Wednesday night rants with Pat Hirsch. But I will put this as closing thoughts. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We want to live. We want the protection however we see fit, whether it's with your hands or a tool, it doesn't matter. It's all self-preservation. Somebody wants to do something bad to you, you don't want to die. So it's pretty much cut and dry. So it's how bad do you want to live?
Nope. Very, very well said. All right. Can't wait to see more of the Wednesday night rants. I think that there aren't enough rants out there in the world, honestly. I think that we call it a rant, but ultimately what it is just people that are fed up with all of the BS out there in the world today and just telling it like it ought to be. So I think we need more of that in the world. And I definitely think we need more people that are willing to tell the truth, or at least the truth as far as they see it, or the way they see it, because that has been definitely discouraged of late. All right, Travis, you're up next. Any closing thoughts? Where can people find you?
I appreciate the invite. It was a great discussion tonight. I think it's just some really important topics, and we had some awesome guests tonight. And no, man, I had a lot of fun this evening. So thank you. You can just find me over on YouTube. The channel's Travis P11, and it's the same over on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. But no, it's always a pleasure being here, and I look forward to being on again. So thanks, man.
All right. And then Saturday mornings, you're doing a live thing as well?
Yep. We got Caliber Corner, a little podcast that we do every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time, which is the best time zone in the world. It's because we're in the middle, it's the center. So, yeah. But otherwise, make sure you guys check it out. We're coming up on 200 episodes, and it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah, check it out. Saturday mornings at 8 a.m.
Awesome. All right, Travis, thanks for being here. Defense Dad, we're going to let you back clean up.
Oh, thanks for having me. I think everybody else said it better than I can, but it was a good topic. But yeah, I mean, it's just something to think about as far as how to protect your family and what you should do. So, as far as my channel, if you want to check out some silly videos, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Odyssey, and I do have a small Patreon. But that's it.
Very, very cool. All right, so go check out everybody that's here, and yeah, make sure you go check out Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I don't know when my episode's coming, but I do have an episode coming, so be watching for that. And then I didn't make this announcement earlier in the night, but it's not a big announcement. Those of you that are friends with me on Facebook on my personal page, not my Sandhills page, pretty much you've already seen this, but I've made the decision to basically take on another thing, throw another iron into the fire in life, because we're not busy enough with already 2 jobs and my NFOA stuff on the side and my internet stuff on Thursdays and everywhere else. So I have decided I want to get into the instructor game as well. So I've got I'll be taking that course later this year. Hopefully early 2022, I will be able to offer some courses, and I'll be credentialed. I'll be certified, because I think I'm pretty well certifiable. And so I'll be certified to teach, because they say those who can do and those who can't teach. So we'll find out if I'm a can or a can't. But those of you that are in the Northeast Nebraska area or North Central, be on the lookout for more to come on that when the time comes. We will try to find some students and get some classes going, because we just don't have enough instructors in all of the areas that I have friends. There's a lot of them around Lincoln and Omaha, maybe along the I-80 corridor, but when you get up to the Northeast and North Central parts of the state, not nearly as many shingles are out there. So can't wait to see what that next adventure in life brings us either. So with that, I think we're going to wrap everything up again. Make sure that you're going to blackswantactical.com and checking out all the cool Sandhills, not just the Sandhills shooter stuff, but more importantly, the Sandhills Sweetheart stuff that's over there. And yeah, if you want to find some really cool, like-minded podcasts, go to the Self-Defense Radio Network, sdrn.us, and go check those out. So on behalf of Trish and Pat and Tom and Defense Dad and Travis and Sandhills Sweetheart, who's out in the other room, she's still not feeling well enough to be in here in the producer's chair. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and tune in next week. I've got tentatively booked the fellas from Walk the Talk America should be back with us next week. So we spent the whole night last time they were here, and we missed one of the key things we were going to bring up. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off last time. So that should be next week. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to get into how the issue is never the issue. The gun debate's not about the gun, dummy. It's about way more than that. The mask debate or the vaccine debate, it's not about the mask. It's not about the vaccine. It's about way more than that. So we're going to talk about several different topics when we say the issue's never the issue. Those of you with a psychology background or a counseling background, you already knew the issue's never the issue. So with that, we're going to call it a night. All of you out there who were watching that made the comments on YouTube and Facebook, thanks for doing that. Thanks for keeping it lively. And if you're catching this on the replay, please still drop those comments. Let us know what you think. If you know somebody who's maybe not entirely sure why anybody would want to carry a gun and they think that we just want to go shoot people or hunt people down, then share this with them. It was a real discussion from real people that none of us want to kill anybody, but none of us are willing to give up our freedoms and our abilities to protect ourselves just in case. So final thought would be this. You are alive. You have the right to be alive. You have the right to stay alive. You have the right to keep yourself alive, and you have the right to do that with any tool that you deem necessary to stay alive. Your life is the most important thing that you have. So with that, thanks everybody. Good night. God bless. But you know what you got to do right now? Get off my lawn.